If you played Magic the Gathering back in early 2000, over 20 years ago, you might recognize a deck named The Keeper that was considered to be the best deck at that time. And it was only legal in Vintage because it ran the full Power 9 or at least 8th piece of the Power 9. Some might drop the Time Twister out of the deck. But let's have a look what the Keeper looked like and why was it so strong back in the day. Of course, this deck would still be kinda okay today. Maybe it needs a new win condition and some upgrades for sure. But yeah, if you look at the core of the deck, it's of course the all powerful artifacts. So we have Black Lotus, we have Green Monolith, um, we have all the Moxies, we have Scroll Rack. I don't know how relevant this card is today. I wouldn't say it's not that important anymore. Of course, we have Soul Ring and Juran Orb, which could sound like unreasonable big, but back in the day, the main opponent for the Keeper was a Suicide Black and the Slick. Slick is of course a mono-red burn deck which tries to Lightning Bolt and Fire Blast you down as fast as possible. So that's why people run Suran Orb. It was not included all the times, but you could see it many times, at least in the sideboard. And for example, this deck list here seems to run it in the main deck. And it's simply because of Slick. And you want to keep yourself alive a little bit longer. So yeah, the creatures were Gorilla Summon. Some might run 2 of these. It was mainly to try to counter your opponent's Power 9 Moxies and stuff like that. So in Mirror Match Keeper versus Keeper, you could destroy the other player Moxies and Soul Ring, etc. Morphling was the main killing machine. That was the win condition in this deck. And today's standard, Morphling looks awful. It's laughable. Well, why did people run Morphling 20 years ago in the Keeper? Well, the rules were a little bit different. Back in the day, you could make the Morphling 5-1 and you could stack the damage. And after the damage has been stacked, you could still pump the Morphling to 0-6 or whatever was needed to be to allow it survive the blow of the defending creature. So the damage stacking rule was different back then, and Morphling was kind of a 4-turn clock because it could fly. It's really hard to try to block it. You need flying creature. It can untap to block your attacks. You cannot target Morphling with spells or abilities if the other player has mana open. So the Keeper tried to get to a situation where it has card advantage, it has counter spells, and then it drops the Morphling and you die in 4 turns after that. That was the main plan of the Keeper. And you will see in a moment what the deck has for the controlling of the game. So the sorceries, it runs Balance from white, which is of course a ridiculously strong card. Praying Gazer, this was mainly used with Mana Drain. So Mana Drain is a counterspell that drains the mana to your pool, and you can use it as a colorless mana to cast Gazer to draw cards, or Mind Twist to discard your opponent's hand. Of course, Demonic Tutor, why not? You want to search for a Time Walk, Instant Recall, whatever. Fireball was not that common, but seems like this guy wanted to run Fireball as, I don't know, maybe alternative way to win the game. This deck has only one Morphling, usually there were 2, but it's okay with 1. Regrowth, well, kinda self-explanatory. You want to regain your Time Walk, Instant Recall, etc. Time Twister was, back in the day, a little awkward card. Some people didn't run it at all in Keeper, some people did. It is for sure a strong card, but somehow back in the day it was mostly dropped out of the keeper deck list for some reason. I guess that you didn't want to give your opponent who plays Suicide Black or Sleek full hand or something like that. Uh, actually, never mind. It's your hand. It's not Wheel of Fortune. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know. I did run it in my keeper, but I didn't have full power. I only had few power 9 cards, so I guess my cheap keeper version wanted to run the Time Twister. Time Walk, of course, huge card. With Regrowth, with Yakmot's Will, with Demonic Tutor, so strong. Uh, if you are not familiar with what Yakmot's Will does, well, it lets you play your graveyard as it was your hand for the duration of the turn, but all the cards that you play will be removed from the game. It's amazing card. Also, Suicide Black did run the Yakut's Will with the Dark Ritual combination. It was a really huge card. Uh, of course, Anstar Recall. It's insanely strong card. If you start the game with Anstar Recall in your hand, you always feel good. Mm, Dismantling Blow was something that was not that, I would say, not that important or not that common. Of course, it's a decent spell with the kicker cost, but it was not run in the deck every time. But this guy seems to be running it, but it was not that common to see. More likely, people run Fire and Ice in the main deck. But yeah, uh, also the Enlightened Tutor, it was not included every time. Of course, it's a good card, but it was not that important. Fact or Fiction was one of the newer cards back in the day. It came in the Invasion set and it found its way to the Keeper that has a little bit stronger card draw engine, but Fact or Fiction was still a nice addition. And of course, Four of Force of Will and Mana Drain. This was the counter engine of the deck back in the day. Mystical Tutor, well, you want to search for I guess, Master Rico. So that's quite useful card in this kind of deck. Stroke of Genius, another card that you use with Mana Drain. You use the colorless mana you drain to your open spell to draw cards. Really strong card, of course. It's an instant instead of Geyser being sorcery. And then Swords to Plowshares. These usually people run 2 or 3 even in the Keeper. Uh, this guy only has 1, but it's okay. But mostly, what I can remember, people use 2, even 3. But I guess this deck list seems to be more against League than against Suicide Black, so that might be the reason. And of course, One Brick Tutor. Why not? You can search your Time Walk, Answer Recall, and stuff like that. Um, then on the enchantments, some people did run Sylvan Library. This deck doesn't seem to use that. It's kind of a brainstorm type of enchantment that allows you to see a little bit further on the deck. It was pretty useful on the deck. And it dropped out of the green and red completely, at least the green, because you only get like Regrowth and Fastbond and the Sylvan Library. So it was the color that you can drop easily. Red was the other one. The main colors were blue, white, and black. But yeah, of course, Fastbond is strong card if you open with right hand. Power Artifact. I can't remember people playing this at all. This is some kind of variation of the deck list. Let's see. Okay, I can see why you want to play this. Yeah, for sure. I guess Dismantling Blow was there mainly against stuff like Bad Moon or something like that that can block your lands completely or something like that. Was it Bloodmoon? The red enchantment that says that all non-basic lands are mountain. Can't remember the name. Trade routes, yeah, usable card from, was it Tempest? I believe so. Um, Again, more card draw. And then the lands, City of Brass, because this is the 5-colored version. If you use 3 of 4-color version, you probably don't need City of Brass, but this deck seems to include those. And of course, there were fetch lands. I believe they were released somewhere around 2003 or 4. So once they were released, City of Brass was out, and the Fetchlands, of course, replaced those. And that's when we start to see also the brainstorms included. So yeah, Dust Bowl, okay, typical land from that era. And of course, the expensive Library of Alexandria, which is like power 10, I would say. So amazing card in the Keeper. And the usual Strip Mine, it was restricted. You can only use one. Tolarian Academy, why not? It's amazing with your Moxies. And of course the dual lands, Tropical, Tundra, Underground Sea, Undiscovered Paradise. Yeah, why not? Why not? Because you are running 5C. And Volcanic Island. And of course the Wastelands, which were pretty usual to see in any deck back in the day in Vintage. Because you try to counter your opponent dual lands. So yeah, at the sideboard, it was usually just a Pyroblast and stuff like that to counter your opponent's blue spells and stuff like that. But also the Glacial Chasm was pretty usual to see. Can't remember what this card is. It's from Odyssey. Remove a card in your hand from the game. Return target card from your graveyard to your hand. If it shares type with the card removed this way. Okay. Haven't seen this used in Keeper ever before, but yeah, I guess it's useful. Horn of Greed. Uh, I can't remember what against this is supposed to be useful. Can't remember that. Uh, this is weird. 4 Phyrexian Negators. I guess it's against another Keeper player. Really weird sideboard. See, Phyrexian Negators. Because I can't catch any matchup where you want to use these. But I guess with Soul Ring and Black Lotus and Moxies, you can drop turn 1 Phyrexian Negator against another Keeper player. And you can take out something like Fireball. Probably take out something like Sudan Orb for sure against another Keeper player. Yeah, I guess that's the game plan here. I guess so. And you want to use these, of course, also to win the counter war. Time Spiral. I wonder what against you want to sideboard this in. And of course the Wheel of Fortune and Windfall. Okay. And here is another variation of the Keeper. So as we can see, this one is only running 4 colors. Green is left out. And you only have Gorilla Shaman from red. And this one uses 2 Morphlings. Pretty similar in the sorceries. Well, here's a Mercat Scroll that was missing from the other deck. But this guy is not running the Fireball. And of course the Recruit is out. So search your library for blue instant or interrupt, reveal that card to all players, blah blah blah. So this was of course, to search for Ancestral Recall. And it was really common to see this in the Keeper deck list. And of course, Ancestral, and this one used the Brainstorms. These were more common to see after the Fetchlands were released. And the Cunning Wish from Judgment. This one is hilarious. So this allows you to get an instant from your sideboard. So I guess, okay, there was some removal, Disenchants, Ebony Charm, and the Fire and Ice which you can get. Gosh. Okay. Misdirection. This was also very, very, very common to see in Keeper, the main deck list. And this doesn't include misdirection at all. And also this one is also using it on sideboard. But it was really, really, really common to see misdirection in main deck. It allowed you to hymn your opponent when they use it against you, or misdirect the lightning bolt to a Jackal Pup or something like that. So it was a really, really strong card back in the day. Shattering Pulse. What was it? Buyback? Destroy? Okay. It's an destroy artifact buyback spell that you can use forever if you have mana. And Skeeter's Crying. I believe this was released back in the Odyssey, if I remember correctly. As an additional cost to cast Skeeter's Crying, exile X cards from your graveyard. You draw X card and lose X life. Yeah, you can draw a lot of cards with this one. I guess you get with Cunning Fish if you need Disenchant or Shattering Pulse or Edict for a removal or counterspell against another keeper. Or yeah, I can see the plan here. The sideboard is more towards the Cunning Wishing, and this guy used it for actually replacing some cards in the deck. But yeah. And we see also one Diabolic Edict in the main deck. Well, this is of course to kill your opponent Morphling. And it's also useful against Suicide Black. You can Edict turn 1 Hypnotic Spectre or Negator or anything like that. But this was perfect way to remove Morphling in mirror match, Keeper against Keeper. And of course, Fact or Fiction, typical of Force of Will, Mana Drain, 4 of each, Mystical Tutor, Stroke of Genius, again, 1 Swords to Plowshares, Vampire Tutor. This one is not running Juran Orb or Grim Monolith. Other than that, it's quite similar. What is the other card missing here? Of course, Mox. Moxes are all here, but yeah, Scroll Rack, yeah. So this was a Tempest card that you can use or not use in the Keeper. It's not that important. So yeah. And the Abyss, this was an interesting card. All players bury one target non-artifact creature under their control if they have any during their upkeep. So because you are only playing 3 creatures yourself, so this was just like an instant win if you get this on table turn 1 or turn 2 against, let's say, Suicide Black. They had to sacrifice a creature each turn, and there's just no way to win the game at that point if you are playing the Suicide Black. So yeah, it was a tough card to beat for sure. Other one was Moat. It's a 4 mana white card. I believe it's plus 2 white, 2 colorless, and only flying creatures can attack you. So once you drop that, only the Hypnotic Spectre can attack you, and nothing in the Slick deck can attack you. But the Abyss was, I guess, more solid one than Moat. I believe it was quite expensive card back in the day, when the Moxies and stuff were way under $1,000. The Abyss was still if I remember correctly, something like $300. It was quite expensive card back in the day. And yeah, this one has also City of Brasses because the fetchlands were not released yet. One island, of course, Library of Alexandria, Strip Mine, Typical Tundra, Underground Sea, Undiscovered Paradise, Volcanic Island, Wastelands. So yeah, that's the Keeper and two different variations. There were, of course, a lot of variations. Some people might run some weird instance or one weird sorcerer that's not seen on these deck lists. But the typical deck list was one or two Morphlings, one or two Godless Summons. All these sorceries, these are really common. All these instants, maybe Brainstorm, maybe not. And maybe green, maybe not. If you run green, you had Fast Bond, Regrowth, maybe Silver Library, and some kind of other sideboard card or something like that. All the powerful artifacts we see here. And the deck was really expensive. Well, today, of course, it's way more expensive. When the Keeper was run, Underground Sea, Tundra, Volcanic Island were like $20 a piece. City of Brass was, I believe, $5. The Library of Alexandria was expensive. It was almost the same price as Moxies were. Black Lotus was, of course, really expensive. I can't remember the exact price, but Moxies were something like, I like to say, 500 maybe. Balance was almost free. It was under $10. So was the Geyser, so was the Demonic, Mind Twist. All these basic cards. Yakut's Will was like $10 or something like that. This was nothing. This was nothing. Nothing like $1. Force of Wills were, I believe, $50. I like to say. So $200 for a full set of Force of Will. Mana drains were so expensive. Full set cost you like 400 or something like that. These were also not that expensive. Tutor might have been, if it was the Black Border Vision one, maybe $10 to $20 or something like that. Morphling was kinda expensive. If I remember correctly, it was like $20 or something like that. But yeah, you can see Keeper was expensive deck. Of course, today it's 10 to 20 times more expensive, but back in the day, when decks in Type 2 usually cost around $100 to $200 or something like that, and you came with your Keeper that cost like 5,000 to 10,000. So compared to the normal decks, the Keeper was really expensive. And I've seen two different Keepers in real tournaments with full power 9. So yeah, people had them, yeah. But they were not unbeatable. I was able to win 2 against 1 in one tournament with the Suicide Black. So definitely it had some weaknesses, but once the Keeper get the perfect hand, you were done. Like I remember in game 2, my opponent started with one dual land and Mox Sapphire, and I tried to drop turn 1 Negator with Dark Ritual, and it was mana drained, and then it was Keeper's turn 2, and they just drop Underground Sea and Mind Twist my full hand with the 3 mana they get from a mana drain. So that was not fun. You are at that point with one swamp with empty hand against Keeper that has several cards in hand, so you can just give up at that point. But yeah, that's a Keeper back in the early 2000s, so that's over 20 years ago. That's an ancient Magic history. But yeah, let me know if you want to hear more about our old Magic decks. I was really active Magic player back in the early 2000, and I remember a lot of cool decks from back of that era. So if you want to get more information on really old decks and how they run their decks and what was the format they used it, etc., leave a comment below and let's talk about it. But hey, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.